Hello, everyone, and welcome to your Friday night Four Lads Rangers weekend podcast. My name is Stevie, and we've got a full house with us to discuss, which up until an hour ago was going to be a fairly routine podcast. We had basically focused on Russell Martin's comments today. We were going to look at what he said about Dessers, what he said about John Souttar, what we thought of the fixtures, the club statement about John Brown, academy update on the structure of that. And then we were going to have a wee chat about what we'd hoped. And then all of a sudden, Sky Sports come to the rescue with some breaking news that Max Aarons, who we had spoken about the other evening and confirmed that interest was indeed real, they understand that Rangers have agreed a deal for the 25-year-old. So fantastic news. He is a brilliant player. We are going to talk about that. But we will start off, I think, just to give everybody an opportunity to get onto the podcast and join in and log in, etc. We'll start talking about some of the things that broke today. Gentlemen, thanks for coming on. Andrew keeping the quantity of hair alive with his Belgium top on, so we are delighted with that. What a day it's been. Sun shining, lads. Really nice day. Fixtures come out this morning. Let's get your immediate reaction, please, David Hurd. And then, boys, jump in and tell me what you think of those fixtures that came out this morning.
When it comes to the fixtures, I think the first thing to say is we've got a decent start. I think when it comes to bedding in a new team, new manager, new style of play, you didn't want too many of the toughest fixtures in the opening weeks. And other than the Celtic game, then I don't think we could have picked it much better, to be honest. We haven't got one. I always talk about traditional away game. The toughest away game has been the likes of Parkhead, Pittodrie, 2 Edinburgh grounds, Tannadice. We don't have any of them until the end of October. So we have got a chance to get some points on the board. The one caveat I'll put in that is that I said exactly the same thing 2 years ago when Michael Beale was the manager and we lost 3 of our first 7 games and he gets sacked. So who knows? But we've got a great chance to go off to a good start. December and January, as always, will be pivotal when you look at the number of really tough away games we've got in amongst that. But if we can get the points on the board, get the momentum going, I think the fixtures are looking not too bad.
Yeah, pretty much the same as David. Decent start. If you can get a winning start, get away to Fir Park, get a win, and you're at home to Dundee next, then that sets you up right away. David's right. December, January, they'll be defining. That's a tough run of fixtures. There's an awful lot of away fixtures, tough away fixtures then. But that's the same every year, isn't it? We always get that. December, January, it's always a tough schedule, and invariably we'll get your Hibs, your Hearts, your Aberdeens, your Celtics away from home in a run of fixtures that are always incredibly tough. But listen, the simple truth of that is that if you want to win this league, you're going to have to go to these places regardless of when it is. And if it's a tough run of fixtures and you get through them, then you should be flying. So quite exciting. It's always a nice day when you see the fixtures coming, isn't it? When the fixtures come in, you always kind of, oh, right where you are. I always look for the Celtic game first. And as ever, it's always the 4th or 5th game in, isn't it? And it's early. Big plus for us, it's at home first. So let's get the players in and let's get moving. Looking forward to it.
Kenny, I thought you were about to burst into song there. Hibs, your Hearts and your Celtic for a minute.
No, not me, mate. I'm professional. Wouldn't do that.
Something like that, yeah. Andy, what do you make of
it? Similar to what my 2 fellow Bears have said so far. Again, just looking at them, I think we're starting to Motherwell. I think back to 55 season, we started that season away to Aberdeen and got a quite I think it was a 1-0 Kent goal there, and that kind of set us off. So yeah, I think if we can start strong, Dundee, St Mirren, and then into that first Old Firm at Ibrox, I think that'd be quite a good measure stick to see where we are with the Martin era. So underway, especially with the European ties before that.
Yeah, look, listen, I don't tend to be one of these guys that looks into things and goes, oh, we can get 3 points here and 3 points there. It's not the way I do it. It's going to be difficult whatever way we start. However, I think that there's a degree of truth in what Davey's saying, that the real tough away games, aren't appearing till later on. And it's funny because when December and January comes, we actually have an incredibly tough run of away games. I think we go Kilmarnock, Hearts, Celtic, Aberdeen, and Hibs all on the trot away from home. So there'll be 5 real pivotal games in our season. So that's going to be difficult. But like Davey says, it gives us the opportunity. We've got a lot of fixtures that you would expect us, if we're going to have any chance of doing anything, to do well in. And there's no given, absolutely no given in any fixtures, but we do have a chance here. In Motherwell, traditionally, we do okay at Fir Park traditionally. I remember starting there under Le Guin. I think we won 2-1. Sionko scored, if I remember rightly, possibly Purcell. David, you might be able to remind me. But it was 2-1, and we had what seemed like about 30 chances that day and only won by 2-1. So let's hope that Rangers can start off, because that's what I really want. I want a good, fast start. So fixtures are here. It's always the ones you look forward to. When are we playing Celtic? We play them game 4. Then we play them on the 3rd of January, and then only 8 weeks later. So there's a 4-month gap and then just an 8-week gap. So they are going to be things to look forward to. You've got that away run. I think December and January would be huge. But just to get to that point, I think for me, and not be so many points behind, is a real target. So game at a time, obviously, is potentially a chance for us to get off to a good start. Motherwell will be extremely tough. Any away game would have been, but it's not Aberdeen, it's not Hearts, it's not Hibs. It's not a kind of top 6 side, which you would really kind of worry about. Hearts, albeit aren't a top 6 side last season, but still equally as difficult. So, yeah, I think it's a good start, a good opportunity for Rangers with the fixtures. But Russell Martin also spoke. He said a couple of quite interesting things, which obviously the first thing he kind of mentioned was on Cyriel Dessers. And lads, this kind of goes back to what I've been saying consistently on the podcast this week. He said, we will all know when bids are real, which I think's a real clear indication there. He expects him back on Monday. I've said all along that I think reports in Greece, reports on certain channels on X, etc., are jumping the gun. Rangers haven't received a bid. There's been no bid received, even to discuss or not back. There's been a lot of talk about agents. I seen a story saying that he was stopping in an airport while he was on his way home from that. He was on his way home from his honeymoon with his new wife, which we congratulate him for. So, yeah, I think there's been a lot of misreporting from the Greek side. I'm not saying he's not going to sign, but it's fairly been jumping through. And I think Russell Martin's comments there are quite clear when he talks about, lads, when he mentions when bids become real. I think that's a clear indication. What did you make of Russell Martin's comments on Cyriel Dessers, lads?
I think there's the chance that this is going to be one of the transfer sagas of the summer. It wouldn't surprise me if we're still talking about, is Cyriel Dessers going to be starting against Panathinaikos 3 or 4 days before the actual game itself? Wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. It's like all these things. I mean, everything's got to line up, isn't it? The wages sounds as if they're willing to pay it, but the fee, well, does he want a payoff? I don't know. There's all these things usually come into transfers that you never know how it's all going to work out. And it wouldn't surprise me if there's 2 or 3 transfer sagas this summer. That'll be one of them, and I can see there being 2 or 3 others. Do I think he'll end up a Rangers player at the end of the transfer window? No, I don't. I do think he'll go, but I don't think it's one of these. It'll be over in the next few days type thing.
Transfer sagas and Rangers. I mean, I'm thinking the one that I'm thinking Joey Veerman. I'm thinking Jamie Walker. That's ingoings, outgoings will be a wee bit strange, in the last few seasons where we have been kind of not too positive about many players, but some competition for agreeing a good fee for Cyriel would be interesting. I think we need to stand firm. I think we said this in shows recently that we're in no position to. Well, we don't have to be selling here. We don't need to be taking a discounted price for Cyriel. We hold the final say on aye or no, in the nicest way possible. We will command our price. So he'll be doing his usual, at the wedding. He'll start to get ready for his return back for his pre-season I'm sure we'll get into Martin's comments in the pre-season, but the running hard, we'll wait to see if he's enjoyed his dinner after his wedding, the reception, because you need to run that off if he's got any sniffer getting into the starting 11 with this Martin system, if it's going to be a high running, high pressure, kind of a bust a gut to get forward style that the number 9 needs to do. I think that's one of these things with Cyriel, is that does he fit that role, and is that maybe why we are entertaining an offer in the first place, potentially?
Well, it wouldn't be a Four Lads podcast if we didn't talk about Cyriel Dessers for 5 minutes, would it? Look, it is what it is. Russell Martin has probably put that as well as you can put it without, being derogatory about anybody. But he's basically just turned around and said, "Yeah, when we get bids, we'll probably let you know." No bid, no nothing, a non-story now at this minute in time. And yeah, as I say, my stance is still the same. If you're looking for somewhere between 4.5, 5.5 million quid, then Rangers hold all the aces, and it's up to other clubs, whether it's Athens or anybody else, to find the money. And if they don't, then I hope that Rangers don't budge. I've said it many, many times. I think Rangers have been too easy to lowball in the past with transfer fees. And yeah, I think agents probably know that we've been that way for a long, long time. And I think that's been part of it. And I do know that Kevin Thelwell did a great job at Everton in terms of getting agents' fees down and stuff like that. So that might well be part of it, that they're looking at it saying, no, your agent's not getting a part of this or whatever. So it's a kind of non-story at the minute, and we've been talking about it forever. So yeah, it is what it is. And as I say, I thought Russell Martin handled that very, very well.
I thought his words were interesting when he said when bids are real. So I think that kind of establishes where we are. I got a wee bit of stick in the comments of the podcast the other night, and again, the amount of people watching that has been incredible. 10,000, 8,000, 10,000. It's incredible the amount that's watched the last couple. But people weren't pleased with me because I said I want 5 million northwards for Cyriel. I'm still the same, folks. I know that people are saying take the hit, get rid, blah, blah, blah. 50 goals in 2 seasons. If you want them, you can pay for them. That's my opinion on it. And I think Rangers would do well to try and get that much. So we'll see how that goes. We love a saga here on Four Lads. No doubt on Monday we'll be talking about it again, because there'll be another post, there'll be another update. He might be there on Monday. Well, we'll just need to see. But let's see how that goes. On John Souttar, this has been interesting for me, the reaction to that. Club were aware of it. Russell Martin spoke of it. He had a desire to play for Scotland. That was okayed by the club. It's a minor surgery on a hernia. A hernia is a very small tear in the stomach lining. It's a very simple fix. He's going to be back in time for Panathinaikos. He done it with the club's permission. I'm a wee bit torn on this. I would like to see every player put Rangers first. However, representing our country, I can understand why it's a massive thing for players. I would encourage that for our players, regardless of what people think, and I understand it completely. It's minor surgery. He's going to be back in time. But where that kind of falls back is that it would be a problem if he doesn't. If he doesn't get back in time for that Panathinaikos game and we're struggling, then I think it changes the dynamic. But what we're being told is it's very minor surgery. He'll be travelling with the team down to St. George's. He'll be out a week or two longer than expected. He only returned at the start of July. I can see why people are upset. Everybody wants Rangers to be first, but the club country thing, I understand that as well. Kenny, we'll start off with yourself. Where are you on this John Souttar thing? It's obviously caused an almighty backlash. Immediately, people wanted him out. People wanted this, wanted that. I'm not sure it's as simple as that, and I understand why the players would want to represent the country. It's a very minor thing. If it was a long-standing or anything else, I think I would be pretty furious at everybody else. The club knew about it, done with the club permission. I'm not buying into the massive amounts of get rid shouts, etc. Only my opinion.
I'm a little bit torn myself. I feel that depending on exactly when he knew that operation should have probably been had immediately after the Bilbao game. For me, it makes more sense for the boy to do that then, because our season was effectively done. However, when it comes to playing for your country, yeah, I do get that. I do understand that. However, I also am a bit like yourself. I want to see Rangers players prioritise Rangers and not necessarily concern themselves too much with Scotland, particularly in light of what else we're going to talk about. But anyway, that's another story. I just feel that it's a difficult one. My son, oddly enough, he's livid at this, and he's not that type of boy, but he's not happy with it. Whereas I'm kind of looking at it and saying, I wonder if, and this is just a guess, you know, I wonder if Barry Ferguson has asked him to just carry on playing through to the end of the season because of the situation we had with our centre halves. And he's went, well, if I'm going to do that, I'm going to play the Scotland games as well. And the club have went, yeah, that's fine. And if that's the case, then I can get it. I can kind of understand that. For want of repeating you, or not wanting to repeat you here, Stevie, I kind of understand what you're saying and kind of agree with you. I just feel it's a little bit of a risk to play those international games when we have got games at the end of July. You know, it's you're leaving it fine, and if anything happens in terms of, I mean, I don't know exactly when he's going to come back into pre-season. I know they're due back. The international players are due back on the Monday after, next Monday. So, you know, I don't know when he's going to get back exactly. But if it's not going to hinder him too much, then fair enough. But I'm a wee bit peeved, if I'm being honest, that this operation wasn't done earlier.
Well, on that, as I said, it is a very minor injury. I don't think he's played on with it at any considerable length of time because hernias can become quite difficult. This was an easy fix, keyhole surgery, very straightforward, and I'm told it's a 2-week maximum kind of thing, Davey. So I am not really seeing this as being the outrage that it was. Only my opinion.
To be honest with you, I think it tells us a lot about Rangers supporters' attitude towards Scotland. For me, if I can go back a long, long way, and I can remember Rangers players, John Greggs, Andy Jardine, Tom Forsyth, turning up injured and still reporting for duty for Scotland because Scotland was important to us all back then. International football isn't what it used to be, and Scotland certainly isn't what it used to be for Rangers supporters. And I think it's just a modern thing now. And I think it's not going to change. As far as the Souttar thing's concerned, yes, I wish that he had the operation earlier and missed out 2 utterly meaningless friendlies. I can't see Steve Clarke not picking him in future if he hadn't went to because I think quite a few folk pulled out of these squads anyway. So I don't see it as something that would have really impacted his international future. He's just better play against Panathinaikos because I just think it's a. If he doesn't play, the storm will come out the teacup, and it'll be. But more importantly for Souttar, in my view, is what's going to happen to his contract. Because we can talk about international stuff all I like. He's got a year left in his contract, as far as I'm aware, and I think that needs to get sorted as well as his fitness.
Yeah, and Bluebells makes that very point, Andy. He wants him sold if he isn't signing an extension. I said previously that we have a question mark over Souttar anyway. So that's an interesting one for me. Like Davey said, I'm the same. You know, if this turns out to not be a simple, straightforward week or two, and he's back well in advance of Panathinaikos, then I think quite rightly we've all got a right to be extremely peeved off at that decision making. But I think I'm more highlighting it because it was made out like it was a big, secret, and Rangers, it was a big shock to Russell Martin. It wasn't. And that's mischievous kind of headline making for me because I think it was like Russell Martin shocked, John Souttar injury, facing a race against Panathinaikos. None of that's true. This was all done with the club's permission. So with that, that's where I am on it. I think it's more a kind of overreaction. I can see why people see it, but for me, I think that headline making has caused a lot of that. With him being sold anyway, if he's not signing an extension, yeah, I mean, if we could get an offer, if he says I'm not signing, then yeah, absolutely. If we can get a fee for him, then you take that. But that counts for any player, never mind John Souttar. But the extension thing is something we need to be sorting and quickly, I suppose. But Andy, where are you on the whole John Souttar conundrum as such?
He's a player that I like. I think he's didn't have a great season. I think that's also another leading factor into it is that, you know, his valuation to the Rangers support has gone down, as it would after a poor season like he did have. I'm not going to say, even though I like him, that he was, you know, a rock solid centre back. I think he was weak in games. I think he looked off the way when he's good. I think he can be. Don't worry about John Souttar at the back, but when he's off his game, much like the rest of the back line, when we just had bad games defensively, we looked like bomb scares anytime the ball went near us. I think that's not helped. If it was the case that it is as bad as the papers made it out to be, that it was going to be a race against the time to see if he was going to be fit for that Champions League qualifier, I would be more pissed off. I think it's a strange one. I do think it doesn't make much sense to me that he decided he really wanted to play in those games because, as Davey said, I doubt. I mean, the Scotland centre-back options aren't exactly stellar, you know. He's not really having to lay down a marker to get back into it, give Ryan Porteous a game and get himself sent off and he's straight back in. He's not like he's at left back where you've got a Tierney and a Robertson to try and contend with. He could probably walk into that position. That's why it's more strange to me that there is some sort of, you know, obligation for him to play in that game. Unless it is something like Kenny said, where it is that he's been asked to keep it off the end of the season, and he's then said, "Well, if I'm not getting it now, I may as well play those games," you know. But it's strange. If he's back and it all goes to plan ahead of Panathinaikos, it'll be just we'll forget about him and move on. Contract wise, that will be a strange one. I was happy to give him another extension and keep him at the club. I think is useful to have in amongst the team. But I think, as you said, Stevie, any player, if anyone's going to be going down to that last year and we get an acceptable deal for them, then yeah, you have to go. It's one of these things. We need to be money in focused instead of money out focused, and certainly it would be another shame to have another player leaving on a free, which we certainly. I'd hoped those days had passed. Kents and your Morelos, your Hollanders, those days. I thought that we'd get wisened up to those kind of contract situations, but we just need to see how it pans out. But yeah, it's been a strange one.
MG says, "Storming a teacup, boys." I'm not sure if he means John Souttar or our band name, but let's see. What else happened this week? Right, okay, so there was a report in the papers about Davy McCallum becoming head of the academy, the new position. I asked Rangers about that on Wednesday night and was given quite a detailed reply. He is the intern head of the academy while Kevin Thelwell conducts and looks at the review that's been done. That includes all members of staff. It was quite a kind of detailed update on that. So reports that he has been given the job or is about to be given the job has been denied. Rangers say there's no decision being made at all. It's a difficult one. Davy McCallum is somebody that I've watched the B team at times and thought they played ridiculously good football, really attacking, really had good players, liked to play more or less four up front at times last year. Some great performances. We went to Stenhousemuir and seen him win really, really well. Andy's covered a lot of the B team. And I quite like Davy McCallum, but I don't know what type of coach he is. I don't know what he's like in and around the centre. I don't know if this is a job that's too big for him, in all honesty. I would have hoped, like the Dan Purdy thing, that we would have put somebody in that would be experienced and have years in the job. And that's something that's still potentially happen. Davy McCallum might get the job full time, but at this moment, Rangers are adamant that no decision's been made. Boys, that was a kind of update. Again, false headlines in the papers and things like that, which frustrates me because I then put out the information that Rangers actually give you and the information that they let you see, etc. And you just get told you're putting out stories for the sake of it. So it's really difficult when you do that. Lads, what's your thoughts on the academy stuff? Davy McCallum potentially getting that job. Davy, we'll start with you, mate.
I must admit, the only time I remember Davy McCallum was when he took the team at the semi-final against Hibs about 4 years ago. I've never really watched the B team, so I couldn't comment on his coaching ability or anything like that. What I would say is the B team exists to provide players for the top team, and there hasn't been exactly a procession of them in the recent past. So I don't know whether whoever's in charge of the B team is regarded as a success or not. Personally, until there's more players in the top team coming through, then I don't see the B team as being a success at the moment. I think he did run a youth academy at Queen's Park, didn't he? I think he was the head of the academy at Queen's Park way back when Andy Robertson and Shanklin were coming through the ranks there. So I think he has got some history in that kind of job. So maybe that does give him a chance of getting it. But I don't know whether there's other candidates better suited or not. We'll just need to see what this review does. If he gets the job, the new guys must think he's the best one for it. And I'm just going to wait and see what happens.
Yeah, he has been doing the interim job, Kenny. So this wasn't exactly new headlines. But again, the headlines that were given that he was stick on and it's been decided, the club have said that's completely untrue. A review continues and he is acting at the moment while the club make any decisions.
Yeah, and all I'm aware of is the boy that I can't remember the lad's name that you mentioned. It was Everton that was being linked with a job.
Gareth.
Yeah, all I know is that he's been linked with a number of different moves now, Saudi Arabia and in the Premier League and stuff like that. He's a highly sought after lad, and if he's getting offered a lucrative contract in Saudi Arabia, I think we're going to find it very tough to bring him here. So I don't really know huge amounts about this. I'll be frank about it. I would look at it and say the youth system at Ibrox or at the training centre is broken. It's been broken for a number of years. It needs fixed. And if it suggests that Kevin Thelwell's looked at this and thought, I need more time to kind of figure out exactly what way to go in this, that's kind of what it looks like to me. On the face of it anyway. And I won't pretend that I know much more than that, Stevie, because I don't genuinely.
Andy, you did cover quite a lot of games last year. You did watch them. A lot of people saying that there's nobody coming through, but talent-wise, Bailey Rice is there. There's quite a few players that played last year. Paul and Seal and stuff got minutes, maybe wasn't ready. Others have been given new contracts, like Finlay Curtis scored 60-odd goals and has been in the periphery of the team. He might be ready to step up further this year. But Davy McCallum, I think you might agree, did play some attractive stuff, but we don't know overall coaching-wise how good he is. We know what we've dealt with him, but it's not. It wasn't really headlines because he has been interim head of the academy now for quite a while. It wasn't new, but the reports again are a bit misleading, and that's what I was saying to the boys there. That kind of irks me a wee bit.
I think it's another case of the papers have run out of things to talk about. I mean, he's been interim, so Zeb Jacobs left as the head of the academy, I believe. He's been an interim since there. I have spoken to David after B-team games, did some stuff at previous podcasts and met up with yourself at the start of the season. I really liked watching the B-team game. I said that anytime I was covering those games and had the opportunity to travel to the Challenge Cup games and so on, we were playing some really lovely stuff. And it's against, these hard-nosed the guys that are just there to kick lumps at the talented youngsters in it. And we were really navigating those games really well. I mean, I looked at games last season when we put King and Ciala against these absolute lumps of strikers and target men, and they were working really well. Just the individuals in the team knew where they needed to be. It looked like a well-oiled machine. which was incredible given the fact that after speaking to him after games, you get guys who were like 16, guys who were 17, guys 19, 20. The age group was not just all 16, all 17, all, there was guys getting chucked in for the game week and they were working off each other perfectly. The football was immense. In terms of the players coming through, I don't think that's a David McCallum problem in the same way that I think the 3-1 Hibs defeat, there's only so much you can really blame him for that, because I think you're completely forgetting that was the Gerrard exit aftermath. That was a pretty torrid time, you know. It was a scrape together what you can get and put them in the dugout at Hampden job. So I don't think you can really hit him with that one. The players that we've had last season, I mean, I was a bit surprised. You know, we talked about Christian Webster leaving the club, Archie Stevens. Archie Stevens, when he played in those games, was absolutely unbelievable. I was watching those games and all, he was take the ball, he could do it himself. I'm just more thinking this is a Rangers problem, that we're not getting these players through, than it is a David McCallum problem. So I think it's, again, beaten with a stick there unfairly. Whether or not he does keep this position once this whole review concludes, who knows? But I think I see the negative press, like some people saying that like it goes straight to a Hibs game. I believe that's quite unfair to him, to be honest.
Yeah, our W Bluebear, he didn't take the women's team and his tactics weren't horrendous. That was Malky Thompson. So David McCallum was not in charge of the women's team, just to kind of highlight that. Quickly, I'm very mindful of the time, guys. Everybody's tuning in, want to hear about Max Aaron and transfers, which we will do. Also want to be off by 15:15. We've spoke again to Club at 22. They go live at 8:15, which is why we're live at 7:30, so that we don't cross over. Really supporting the guys over there. We have a good relationship with them. So I've spoken today to Scott Kearney and we're doing that. So we will be off in time for them to come on. That show follows us over on their channel, Club at 22. So please go and check that out. I was going to talk about the SFA a wee bit on John Brown, but it seems, I don't know if it seems a wee bit pointless. They've bitten back at us tonight. And I think it's just kind of a wishy-washy response, lads, saying that they, you know, acknowledge and they've tried to explain that apparently Motherwell had been pulled up for the same stuff. But I think they're missing the bigger point. Rangers' point is that it's okay, you know, to be on club television saying that our players can get chopped up and put in the corners of the country, and you can do documentaries in stadiums talking about refs and all that kind of nonsense. So I think that's where Rangers are. And I think it's quite clear that there's a disproportionate reaction when Rangers do something to other teams. And it's quite ironic that John Brown's comments have actually been proven correct. Lads, anything to add on the SFA stuff? I think it's kind of, at this point, it's kind of tedious. I think we're all of the same opinion that when it comes to Rangers, we are singled out differently. Does anybody have anything else to add?
Yeah. Listen,
you said you were going to swear about it. Davey said he was going to swear.
Davey said he was going to swear. Yeah, I'll let Davey swear away. Listen, there's something about this that I actually really don't like, because it's this tit for tat stuff that the SFA seem to think that they can do. Now, Rangers have got a legitimate query on this here. I genuinely do believe that it's a legitimate question to them. Well, this seems a little bit odd, the way you work this, the way this system works. So they mentioned something about clarity and clarifying the rules and decisions and all this kind of stuff, mate. Well, a number of years ago, we had that documentary that you mentioned, and a number of years ago, we had a referee strike caused by one particular football club. Did they go about ever clarifying that? No, because I don't think they did. And this is kind of where I'm beginning to get a little bit irked by this. It's almost as if they've been pulled for the back, worked from the back, and I can't be bothered with it. And as I say, it's almost that reply tonight is bordering on smug, if you know what I mean. We'll show you, we'll slap you down. And I hope that Rangers actually... I don't want to say go in for a tit for tat, because I don't. Play smart with this. I said it to you the other night, Stevie, that the one thing I'll say about Rangers' new owners being American is that it's business rule 101. Don't F with our business or we'll F with yours. And that's kind of the way they work. And I hope that they've taken this. Our new owners have taken this statement on board today and kind of understand the riffraff that they're dealing with. That's what I would say, because I don't like that. This is a governing body that thinks that they can demean and belittle. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. And I've not liked the SFA for a number of years. I just think they're there to benefit certain people. It's that simple.
Davey?
I'll try not to swear, promise. A couple of things. Kenny's absolutely right in the fact that it comes across as sort of smug. But there's a history there. What tends to happen is the SFA slap us back and then we just crawl back away again and don't actually confront it until the next time. So I think there's two things Rangers should do, but they won't. But they might do one of them. One is that absolutely John Brown should be on the Rangers TV the first day of the season. Absolutely. Just to send a message to basically says that we're on his side. And the second one that I personally would do, because the SFA's statement doesn't in any way address the issue of club television, which was everything that Rangers talked about. Rangers said they had all these examples that they showed the SFA. I would turn it into a highlight reel and put it out in the social media. And I'd just basically say, these are the examples that the SFA say are not punishable because somebody shows that why ours is any different. And I would just take them on. I think this is the first chance for the new owners to actually show that they will actually take them on and keep going. And I didn't swear.
Professionally done. I like it. Andy, have you got anything to add?
I do think it would be useful to have that long list of the highlights, just as your just next to your broadcast team for RTV in the first game of the season, just to know that is the areas they can go into if they really felt like it. That this is all fair game. That's that, because that's what it is. It has to be fair game. It is or isn't it? And if by not acting on the previous, it's fair game. So by all means, if they want to discuss those kind of things that teams have gotten away with, because there's nothing about it. Precedent has been set. You either like it or you don't like it, and they've let it run. So they've made their bed.
Can I just say the one thing about this, the one last thing, right? The Irvin Welsh comments about Alfredo Morelos, where he wanted him chopped up with a machete and packaged to the four corners of the earth, if I remember is the way he put it. That was just a censure, was it? Really? Just censured for that? I mean, come on. Somebody's taking the piss. That's all I'm going to say.
I'm not bleeping that out later. I can't be arsed. Let's move on. Sky Sports have reported, and it's what we're all here for, to talk about. Rangers have agreed a deal with Bournemouth for 25-year-old Mark Aarons. The deal is a straight loan with no obligation for a permanent move. Aarons played 4 times for Bournemouth last season before going on loan to Valencia in January, making 5 appearances for the La Liga side. The right-back is set to become Rangers' second summer signing after midfield Leo Cameron joined following his departure for Dundee. Right, I will go and say straight away that when this was first mentioned, it was one I was very keen on. He is a player that I've seen before live. I watched him for Norwich in person, actually. I went down to Norwich a couple of times to see Billy play and watched him, and he was a player that I really, really liked. And then he obviously went on to Bournemouth for £7 million. You think that's never going to come round and it would never happen. Rangers can't get a player like that. He has had a bit of a dip. So we are relying on getting that form back. We've heard him speak about Russell Martin before, says he's like a father figure in the dressing room. Loads of respect for him. This is a move that is really quite a good one for me. He's got stuff to prove. Yes, he has to rebuild a wee bit. But this is a player with real pedigree. He's got pace, he's got power, he can get up and down that wing, he can play right back and left back. So this is a case of for me, being a quality over quantity signing. And if we're waiting for more of them, then I'm really quite pleased. Russell Martin said today he expects a few in the next couple of weeks. That's an interesting one for me. Could he be the first one? Sky Sports are reporting that Chris Jack is also reporting it. You would have heard me say the other day that this deal is real. and it looks like we're underway. Andy, start with you again. Max Aarons is a player that I really, really like. We do have to refurb him a wee bit. That's very true. What's your making of this?
Big fan. Two-footed, left back, right back, well balanced, can go forward, can defend. We're not going to get those finished article players, as you said. You know, if it's a refurb, I don't think there's a better place for him to go under that refurb phase with Russell Martin again. Matt Gill as well, also especially needs to be shouted out in that. I think that the coaching staff as a whole, there's a good bond between the player and the staff. So especially off the back of the comments from Mark today about what he expects from his players to buy in, be open to learn and work hard, you'll get that from Aaron because he's been there before with him. He knows that he can trust the manager. There's no, breaking in period. See what the manager's like. Is he going to be hard on me? Is he going to be soft? Is he going to be one of these kind of managers we can, get away with? I think, ironically, Max's former Norwich teammate, Todd Cantwell, maybe got bit off a bit more than he could chew on the previous management, but I don't think you'll get that with Max. I think he'll be spot on for the gaffer and long way. I'm really looking forward to this one if it goes ahead, and if it's quality over quantity, then and that's why we're waiting for these signings. Then I can back that. I know we struggle with patience, but I'm willing to give them the time.
Kenny, this is an interesting one. He's not coming up here, and we're not paying the amount we're going to be paying for a loan move and covering wages and all that kind of thing for him to come up and sit on the bench. This boy's coming here to start. That's obviously going to lead to questions whether or not he'd move to left. Would Tav stay there? Will Tav dovetail in and out of the team, which I think, and I've talked about before, is more likely. I don't see Tav being a regular first-team starter. Could Tav fill in elsewhere in games that he does play? I think Max Aarons is here to play every week.
Pretty much, I would think so. Listen, the boy is quality. I've seen Bluebells of Blue saying that he's not played a lot of minutes. That's a bit of a concern. We are the famous RFC, famous rehab football club. We're good at that. We're good at bringing these boys in, and hopefully we can get better results than we have with some of them. But no, being honest and be fair, this is a good player. This boy is a very tidy football player, and I'm not you. I don't see him playing the left hand side. I think he's coming here to play right back or right wing back, whatever way he's going to play. Which, as you say, maybe Tavernier will be in and out at right back. But I'm not even sure that'll be the case. I do have that kind of inclination that he's going to be one of the 4 or 5 centre halves and cover at right back. To be honest, I think that's where it is. Quite exciting signing though. For all that I'm kind of jesting a little bit, he is a quality player, and if we can get that boy fit and good to go and get him playing, he will make a big difference to us. He's quality.
Davey, what do you know about Max Aarons?
He's not a player I've seen a lot of, in truth. And saying that, he's not played a lot in the last year anyway. But we can get hung up in stats quite a lot, and if you want to do stats, then you would talk about the minutes he played as a concern, and he had not a lot of assists, not a lot of goals, and when he was playing, you can talk about all that stuff. But if you go back to when Tavernier played down in England, he didn't score anywhere near as many goals or assist anywhere near as many goals as you do up here. This is a athletic, physical, modern fullback who's meant to be a pretty solid defender, which I think is what most people who criticise Tavernier keep saying is what we need is in the right-hand side. He's an EPL player, an EPL wages, and a long contract. You were never going to buy somebody like that. You can't afford that kind of player. So a loan makes absolute sense. If you look at our last 3 seasons, we've used the loan market really well. We've brought in guys that we know we couldn't afford to keep permanently, but we've got a right good season out of them. We've helped them and they've helped us. And I see it as the same again. I see this as being an upgrade on what we had for 1 year, and we'll make the most of it for that 1 year.
He is a player that Russell Martin and Gills of Andy Gills, I think it is talked about quite a bit. Name checked him on the very first day about working with him, in the unders at Norwich and all that kind of stuff. So he's one for me that I'm quite excited about. I really like the idea of Kwame Poku as well. That was mentioned as done by our website the other day. We'll just need to wait and find out. Max Aarons, when he comes here, he'll start from scratch like everybody else, so would Poku. But, you know, this is the thing. I'll say it again. I think this is a jigsaw this summer. We need lots of parts, and we need to try and put them together best we can. Would right back have been my first point of call? I think we need centre-backs. I think we need wingers. I think, you know, there's a 6 to be had in there as well. Goalkeeper, what do you do in there? Can we get rid of the likes of Robin Proper? Can we get rid of other players that are on the periphery of teams? Your likes your Cifuentes, Davies, Dowells, etc. That's all going to be interesting, and I'm hopeful that once, you know, you start pulling a few of these threads, these things will begin to unravel. There's also links to a few players. I think you'll see we get linked by a Croatian centre half tonight, so there'll be ones to kind of examine over the weekend, see if that link's there or not, and we can talk about them on the upcoming shows. But I am really on board with Max Aarons arriving. I think he'll be a really good signing. I wouldn't be surprised if we bring in a few loan players and we shop about a bit this summer. I said it the other day, I'm not sure that anybody thinking that we'll spend masses of amounts of money, 30, etc. I'm not sure on that. I think that we'll be really quite clever this summer. It'll be a case of quantity over quality. So we'll need to wait and see how that turns out. James Tavernier will remain here, will remain club captain. How much minutes he gets, I'm not sure. It'll be a lot. So we'll just need to wait and see. But, folks, with all that said, a nice way to end the show with some positivity. Nice to be linked with a player like that. Davey, pleasure having you on, mate.
Thanks very much for having me on again. Yeah, enjoyed it. Enjoy the chat with the guys. And you never know, by Monday when the Americans are in town, maybe there'll be more news to be had by then.
Yep, just on that, Davey will be covering the EGM for us. He'll have a report from that. And hopeful that Davey will also be on the podcast on Monday night to discuss what was said by Pierre Marathi and Andrew Kavanagh, who will get their chance to speak to the press as well. That's not something we're allowed to film. It's not something we're allowed to record. I imagine Rangers would put that out as usual, but David will be able to tell us exactly what was said. David, you looking forward to that on Monday?
I'll be practicing my shorthand all weekend, just so I don't miss anything.
Kenny, thanks for joining us, mate. Much appreciated.
No, thank you. I'm away to open the beer. I had a stand-up fight in a doctor's surgery with the receptionist just shortly before I come on here. And she really hurt my feelings. She was really cheeky and really nasty. So I'm going to go and get a beer. And, yeah, enjoyed that, lads.
Andy, I hope your day was less frantic than Kenny's. He's had a fight with a lawnmower and other people, apparently. But I hope you're well, mate, and have a good weekend.
He's breaking my heart right at the end there. I mean, I was going to go and get a glass of something just as anyway, but I think I'm going to need to toast to Kenny in these in brighter days. That certainly doesn't sound like fun, but yeah, at least the Gels talk's been relatively good tonight. Cheers.
Yeah, folks, let's end the podcast there. Really appreciate everybody joining. For members on YouTube, there is the extra shows there. You can go and watch Kenny's show, First and Favourites with Davey. Mine is also on there if you've got a spare half an hour or so. Please check them out. The other podders will be coming on that show. Also, on Sunday, we will have a live interview for all YouTube members with Kevin Thompson. That's getting done by Derek. Derek's got a new podcast out. It's all Derek's idea. It's his platform about coaching. And we'll be able to talk to Kevin as his first guest. He's got quite a few ex-pros lined up, and that's going to be an interesting one. Again, that's all Derek's idea, and I'm looking forward as much as any of us to see how that's going to turn out. So we'll be filming that on Sunday, and that'll be extra content again for YouTube members. If you want to become a YouTube member, it's on our YouTube page. There's 500 odd members already. Paying as little as 99p a month for extra content, and you'll get that throughout the season. Access to competitions, Black Rooster partners, etc. Lots of giveaways, and we'll be doing a lot more on that as well. So thank you, everybody. If you can't do that, we really appreciate your support. If you could like and subscribe, we've just moved past 8,100 subscribers on YouTube, and we are absolutely overjoyed. The march to 10,000 and that dream number is very much on, and we really appreciate that. We'll be here all season trying our best to bring up not only midweek pods, but match day pods. We're all going to be on the gantry, reporting from matches at all levels through, as well as bringing you press conference access and as much Rangers content as we can. So, that's been said. Thank you very much for joining us. Please remember, Club at 22 podcast has started on their page. Please go and check them out. They're rebuilding their page after sadly being hacked and losing all their subs and things like that. So please go and give them a watch and help them. A huge thanks to our sponsors, Rhino Express, Clydeview's Joinery, Atho Industrial Solution, CSD Air Conditioning, and our partners, Black Rooster and Art of Gold. We have been Four Lads Podcast. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend. The weather is lovely. If you're like me, get the Factor 50 on because you don't want to burn yourself. Take care. Have a lovely weekend. Thanks for joining us, folks.
The Four Lads podcast is sponsored by Rhino Express, Clydeview Joinery, Atho Industrial Solutions Limited, and CSD Air Conditioning, in partnership with Black Rooster and Art of Gold. Thank you for listening to or watching the podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show.